Well, President Trump is going straight from the convention trail to the campaign trail, rallying supporters in New Hampshire and taking aim at Joe Biden just 1 month before the first debate.
I believe he's the worst candidate, the slowest candidate, and I mean in prime time he was the slowest candidate, which was a long time ago. Today's Democrat Party is filled with hate. Just look at Joe Biden's supporters on the streets screaming and shouting at bystanders. You had to see last night in Washington. It was a disgrace.
Well, no political party has a monopoly on hate or empathy, but that does not look like the face of tolerance in the streets outside the Republican National Convention. Joining us now to discuss it is Trump 2020 senior advisor Corey Lewandowski. Corey, thanks for being here. As the president hits New Hampshire and then goes on the campaign trail, what are you finding is the major theme, the message that's resonating with voters?
Well, Will, last night in New Hampshire, in a little airport rally, we had 4,000 people inside the arena, and we had another 4,000 people outside. And let me just contrast that with what Joe Biden did yesterday. He announced he's going to get on the campaign trail in 10 days. So he didn't have a rally last night, Joe Biden. He didn't take any questions, but his big announcement was, after Labor Day, I'm going to go out and talk. What we saw last night in New Hampshire was the message of law and order. People want safety and security at their homes, at their places of worship, at their schools, at their businesses, and they know that Donald Trump is the only candidate who is working to defend and not defund the police.
Yeah, Trump lost New Hampshire by a narrow margin in 2016, Corey. Right now he's polling behind Joe Biden, but it seems to me the news cycle is moving in his direction. Do you see this movement in the polls a reflection of the RNC, or is it what we're seeing on the streets across the country?
Well, I think it's both. And if you look historically at candidates' conventions, most of the time candidates get a bump coming out of their convention. There have been 3 exceptions to that in modern history, Joe Biden being one of them. So it's amazing. If you go back to 1960, candidates who do not receive a bump coming out of their convention have always lost. John Kerry lost. Mitt Romney lost, and now Joe Biden. We're going to see a bump coming out of the Republican National Convention. The president gave an impassioned speech from the White House lawn. It was so strong. And then to follow that up with coming up to New Hampshire and bringing that message directly to the people, Donald Trump is going to win in New Hampshire in November. And I have predicted this. He's going to have a bigger electoral margin in 20 than he did in 16.
You know, one of the great lessons of 2016 is look at polling with some skepticism. But I want to show you the way that President Trump is polling today in some of the key battleground states as compared to 2016. I think we can put these up on our screen. This is Wisconsin. He is trailing Joe Biden by 3.5%. But let's compare that to 2016 when he was trailing Hillary Clinton by 9%. Similarly, Corey, in Michigan, he's trailing by 2.6%. But again, in 2016, he was trailing Hillary Clinton by 9.5%. One more, Pennsylvania, trailing Joe Biden by 5.5%. He was 10 points behind Hillary Clinton some 4 years ago. He's trailing, Corey, but less so.
Well, and the truth is, there was a poll that came out yesterday that's public. In Michigan, Donald Trump is up 1 point. Never other than Election Day, when Donald Trump won the state of Michigan by 10,704 votes, were we ahead. So we are very comfortable in our position right now in all the battleground states. And the fact that Joe Biden has to go to Minnesota, a state that a Republican has not won since 1972, should tell you how concerned the Democrats are about keeping that state in their win column. Donald Trump is going to win Minnesota because the message of safety and security works everywhere.
I don't know which of these polls to believe. 2016 taught me don't put too much into any poll, but certainly there seems to be some movement. We don't know how to measure the current moment, but enthusiasm seems to be going your way, Corey. Thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you, Will.